Over recent times, there has been a huge amount of change to R&D tax relief and the conditions required to make sure you are submitting an R&D application correctly. Today we'll discuss the key considerations for this submission process. One of the biggest changes in recent years is the introduction of the Additional Information Form, which should be submitted for applications from the 8th of August 2023. This form extracts much of the detail from your R&D report, including the details of your R&D activity from your technical narrative, and a breakdown of the associated qualifying expenditure incurred. It's important that this form is submitted ahead of your company tax return, as without this, your application will not be accepted by HMRC. So getting it in on time is critical to avoid unnecessary hassle or delays. The Additional Information Form, however, is just one of the new forms that you need to be aware of. For accounting periods beginning on or after 1st of April 2023, many companies are now required to submit an advance notification form. This effectively serves as a notice to HMRC that you're planning to submit an R&D application and needs to be submitted within 6 months from the end of your accounting period. This can be done by a representative of the company, such as your FD or MD, or an agent acting on your behalf. The form is primarily aimed at first-time claimants or those companies where your last claim was made more than 3 years ago. There are, however, a few nuanced scenarios when working out whether you need to submit an advance notification form or whether you meet the 3-year exemption criteria. So it can be best to speak to an advisor to make sure you are following these notification requirements. It's always important to make sure you're recovering the correct amount, but also ensuring you're receiving the full tax relief you're entitled to. And a key area for this is the recent introduction of R&D Intensity. This was first introduced for expenditure from 1st of April 2023, and it allows certain R&D intensive companies to access a higher rate of relief. Understanding your R&D intensity is key for loss-making companies, as it can significantly increase your recovery rate from up to 18.6% of qualified expenditure to 26.97%. Naturally, making sure you calculate this correctly could mean more money back into your business. The rules around this depend on the period you're looking at. There is a general rule: you will qualify for R&D intensity if your R&D expenditure as a proportion of your company's total expenditure meets a certain threshold. For expenditure from 1st of April 2023, this R&D expenditure threshold was 40% of your total expenditure. This has subsequently been reduced to 30% for accounting periods from 1st of April 2024. Whilst I've talked there about some of the potential rates of relief, it's also important to consider the different methods of receiving your R&D recovery. Whilst it's typically simpler for profit-making companies who receive their benefit through a reduction or refund of corporation tax, there are different options available for loss-making companies that you should be aware of. Where your company is loss-making, you have a few choices to receive your R&D tax relief. Either surrender your losses for a tax credit, or carry them forward or back to offset and receive a reduction in corporation tax for other periods. This is an important commercial decision, and it's essential to weigh up the immediate cash benefit against potential future gains. When compiling your tax return, it's important to make sure the relevant R&D specific sections are completed within your tax computation and CT600. If you're applying for a tax credit, you will also need to complete the associated CT600L form within your company tax return. This includes the relevant details of the payable tax credit amount. Finally, it's important to also attach your R&D report to the submission. While much of the key information is now included within the Additional Information Form, the report adds extra details to substantiate your claim, provide additional helpful information to HMRC, like the credentials of the competent professionals involved. By staying on top of these new requirements and making the right decisions, you can avoid mistakes and get the most from your R&D application. If you do need any help navigating this process, please feel free to get in touch. We're here to make sure that you succeed.